nearest land to Madagascar is Africa, 250 miles away. The first people to settle here did not come from Africa. They came from Borneo, 4,350 miles of open ocean in the opposite direction. They passed closer islands. They kept going. No written record explains why. That is the first question this island asks. It will not be the last. 100% of lemur species on Earth live only on this island. 80% of all chameleon species worldwide. 0.4% of Earth's surface. The numbers don't explain the island. They just mark how far outside the normal range it operates. From a red dirt road at sunset lined with baobab trees to a bay that humpback whales travel 4,970 miles to reach. That same bay was chosen by 17th century pirates as their final refuge. 2 different centuries, 2 species with nothing in common. The same bay. We will get there. 88 million years of isolation turned Madagascar into the only laboratory on Earth where nature and people together build solutions that exist nowhere else. A red laterite road at dusk. Long shadows from trunks, 98 feet tall, stretch 200 feet across the dirt, crossing the road end to end. The air carries mineral dust and a faint trace of baobab flower. Dry, slightly sweet. Temperature has dropped from 95 degrees at midday towards 72. The trunks are silver gray. The road beneath them is deep red. The contrast is so complete it looks composed. "850 feet of this, from end to end. 20-odd trees on each side, spaced as if someone planned it. Nobody planned it. Every tree that used to surround these baobabs was cut. Centuries of clearing for agriculture stripped the western plain down to bare red soil. The baobabs remained because the Malagasy call them Renala, mother of the forest. Cutting one was understood to bring catastrophe to the family that did it. No protected area designation until 2007. Just a shared understanding, transmitted across generations, that these particular trees were not to be touched. Each trunk holds up to 32,000 gallons of water, a living cistern for a plain that receives under 20 inches of rain per year. Carbon dating of the largest, 585 years old, Adansonia grandidieri, found only on the western plains of Madagascar. Nowhere else on Earth. IUCN. Endangered. The forest did not survive because scientists noticed it. It survived because people felt something they could not fully explain, and that feeling held. At the base of the largest trunks, locals still leave small offerings before clearing vegetation nearby, a gesture asking Renala's permission. Not a ceremony performed on specific dates. A daily practice, quiet and unannounced, carried forward because it has always been carried forward. That practice is what remains of the forest. 4 3/10 miles northwest of the avenue, two baobab trunks grow twisted around each other. Adansonia za, a smaller species. They are called the baobab lovers. The legend? Two young people, each promised to someone else, prayed to stay together. They were reborn as two trees that grew into each other and cannot be separated. The story doesn't need to be literally true to do its work. It has kept the trees standing. A forest that should have vanished 200 years ago. Still standing? Not because of science, not because of law, but because people passed down a feeling about these trees that proved more durable than any regulation. Belief, in this case, outperformed policy by several centuries. What comes next on this island runs on a different kind of protection altogether. Not belief, fear. A place so associated with Teo danger and the dead that communities avoided it for roughly 1,000 years. That avoidance, unintentional and absolute, preserved something inside it that deliberate conservation would struggle to replicate. Where Ranala's name saved the Baobabs, a taboo so strong no one would enter saved an entire landscape. Stone needles reaching toward the horizon in every direction. No path, no gap wide enough to move through without touching the walls. Touch the rock, and it cuts through skin immediately, cleanly, without resistance. Towers rising to 230 feet. "580 square miles of this, 100 miles north of the Baobab Avenue, covering terrain that no human community has lived inside for as long as anyone has recorded. The limestone was deposited under a Jurassic Sea between 150 and 165 million years ago. What the rain did to it over that time is what you are looking at now. Water absorbed carbon dioxide from the air, became weak carbonic acid, and carved the limestone preferentially along vertical fractures. 165 million years of that process produced blades. UNESCO inscribed Tsingy de Bemaraha in 1990. But UNESCO did not preserve this place. Fear did. The Malagasy believed, and many still do, that the interior is the domain of Razana, the ancestral spirits, who punish those who enter uninvited with illness and death in the family. That belief functioned as a wildlife reserve for roughly 1,000 years before the concept existed. No livestock entered, no fire, no predators introduced by humans. The interior became secondary isolation, enclosed within an island that was already isolated from the world. Inside the formation, Deccan sifaka moves between the spikes with arms spread wide against open sky. This lemur developed specialized footpads, thick, calloused, shaped exactly for landing on limestone edges that exist nowhere else on Earth. Not just nowhere outside Madagascar, nowhere outside a single type of stone formation. Within the Tsingy, individual species of Brookesia chameleon exist only on one spike, one microhabitat the size of a room. Move 50 feet in any direction, and you are in a different microclimate, different light, different moisture, different species. Microendemism within island endemism. Isolation compounding inside isolation. The walls that cut human skin have, for a very long time, been the walls that kept everything else alive. A place too dangerous for humans, safe enough for everything else. Before you see anything in this forest, you hear it. A sound like whale song crossed with a foghorn, rising for 45 seconds, carrying 1 2/10 miles through the canopy, then falling. Then, starting again in a slightly different key from a slightly different position, the Indri is marking territory, or greeting the morning, and or communicating something that researchers have been studying for decades without full consensus on what it means. Andasibe Mantadia National Park, 90 miles east of the capital, 155 square miles. Rain on roughly 200 days a year. Indri is the largest living lemur, 13 to 21 pounds, black and white, no visible tail. IUCN. Critically endangered. Population estimated somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000, a range that itself says something about how difficult they are to count in dense rainforest. Every major zoo in the world has tried to keep Indri. None have succeeded past 1 year. Not one. The gut microbiome of the Indri runs on tannins from approximately 6 species of leaf found only in this forest. Remove the animal from those leaves, and the gut bacteria collapse. The Indri stops eating. Within months, it is gone. The territorial song system requires a home range of roughly 30 square miles, with specific acoustic geometry the canopy provides. No enclosure replicates it. The animal is not fragile. It is complete, calibrated exactly to this place, with no tolerance for anywhere else. The Betsimisaraka people call the Indri Babakoto, ancestor of people, or father of the child, depending on the dialect. Both translations land in the same place. This is family. No traditional Betsimisaraka person hunts the Indri. This is one of the strongest animal taboos in Madagascar. The forest is the animal. The animal is the forest. Separate them, and both diminish. In the same eastern rainforest belt, something else is happening. Another species, discovered by science in 1986, does the opposite. In 1986, primatologist Patricia Wright was walking a trail through the rainforest of southeastern Madagascar when she saw something that, by biochemistry, should not have been able to exist. A small lemur, gold and amber at the cheeks, feeding on giant bamboo shoots, not the stalk. The shoots, which carry cyanide concentrations high enough to kill most mammals of that body size within a day. The lemur was eating them steadily. It appeared comfortable. The name of the place where she found it, Ranomafana. Hot water, for the thermal springs that surface at the forest's edge. The golden bamboo lemur, Hapalomer aureus, feeds exclusively on bamboo shoots produced by the giant Cathario species. Those shoots contain roughly 0.015% cyanide by weight. Each adult consumes about 1 1/10 pounds of shoots per day. That is 12 times the lethal dose for any mammal of equivalent body size. The animal has been studied since Wright's discovery. The park she advocated for was established in 1991, 161 square miles. Elevations between 2,625 and 3,937 feet. Researchers have proposed 4 separate mechanisms by which the Hapalomer aureus might be processing that cyanide. None have been confirmed across the full population. The population itself, 60 to 100 individuals, IUCN critically endangered, is too small and too specific to its habitat for controlled study. Wright did not only find a new species, she built a research station, Center Valbio, that has since trained approximately 100 Malagasy scientists. It employs local villagers as citizen scientists who track specific lemur families by GPS, by name, across generations. Farmers became data collectors. The forest's mystery drew the people now searching for the answer. Every morning, researchers who trained under Wright enter the forest to locate that animal. They record what it eats, when, how much, in what sequence. They collect samples, run analyses, write papers. The cyanide question remains open. It has been open for 40 years. The golden bamboo lemur does what it does. Science watches, measures, proposes, and revises. Music starts before dawn, not morning music, dance music. Brass instruments, quick rhythm, people already moving. In the Central Highlands, a family has opened a stone tomb. Morning mist on red hillsides, the sound bouncing back from the slopes before the sun has cleared them. Famadihana, the turning of the bones. The Marina and Betsileo of the Central Plateau practice this once every 5 to 7 years per family. When the time comes, the dead come out. The remains are brought into daylight, re-wrapped in new lambamina, red silk, with the ancestor's name written fresh on the cloth, so the identity is never lost. Music plays. The family carries the wrapped remains above their heads, circling the tomb. Kabari, formal speeches, are addressed directly to the ancestor. News since the last gathering. Decisions that need guidance, gratitude for specific blessings received. Cost per ceremony, $500 to $2,000. Madagascar's GDP per capita, $502. No family skips it. This is not sacrifice. This is the schedule. The Marina do not experience this as grief. The dead are Razana, active ancestors, with preferences, opinions, and ongoing influence in family affairs. Someone leans close to a skull and whispers, "Children born since the last gathering, a dispute that needs direction, not a prayer, a conversation." In 2017, a plague outbreak killed over 200 people. The WHO advised against contact with corpses. Compliance was limited. A belief system old enough to have shaped a culture across centuries does not yield to a 2-week public health advisory. The belief is older than the bacteria. Other cultures hold funerals. The Marina keep appointments. What isolation has done to Famadihana, stripping away outside influence long enough for a fully original relationship with death to take root. It has done to everything on this island. The same force shapes the road between cities here. Isolation that creates unique biology and unique ritual also creates unique infrastructure. Paths and bridges and crossings built without models from elsewhere, because there was nowhere else to look. The name means City of 1,000, or City of 1,000 Warriors, depending on the translation. 7 red hills at 4,429 feet. Antananarivo spreads across the ridgetops, steep-pitched red tile rooftops dropping toward rice paddies at the city's edge. Morning fog fills the valleys below. The palace ruins visible from the central market. Rova, on the highest hill, burned November 6, 1995. Reopened in 2026. 30 years as a roofless shell on the skyline. The Marina Kingdom, established here around 1610, built one of the most sophisticated states in Africa before colonization. Written legal code, schools, a standing army, and 2 centuries of governance without sustained outside contact. Isolation was the condition that allowed it. GDP per capita today, $502. HDI rank, 173 of 193 countries. In 2017, plague returned to this city. 2,417 cases, 209 deaths, 72% within the capital's districts. The pneumonic form, airborne, spread faster than modern response capacity could contain. The same isolation that let the kingdom develop undisturbed left it biologically unprepared when disease arrived from the outside world. At Analakeli Market, 820 stalls, the taxi browse coordinator stands at the terminal and manages departures by voice. Destinations called out in sequence. Passengers self-sort. No printed timetable, no app, a routing system processing dozens of simultaneous lines, operated by one person who has done this long enough to know where passengers are going before they say it. The same isolation that built the palace also slowed the response to what the palace could not keep out. The laboratory does not choose which experiments it runs. The island has shown what separation does, to biology, to belief, to infrastructure, and to governance. The mechanism is always the same, applied to another domain. To the west, a river cuts through the plateau, the Betsiboka. running red with laterite sediment all the way to the sea. The island bleeds its soil into the ocean, one rainy season at a time. That river is next. Milky tea water. The Tsiribihina runs 310 miles from the central plateau to the Mozambique Channel. The whole way it carries red laterite sediment in suspension, iron and clay from the hills it drains. The smell on the ferry? Iron and wet vegetation. A zebu is tied to the railing, calling steadily. The deck tilts 2 degrees in the current. The far bank looks exactly like the bank you just left. The ferry operator is the child of the ferry operator. The knowledge required to cross at the main bend is not written anywhere. The river pushes sideways hard enough to require a compensating departure angle. The father showed the child once, the child did it for 30 years. A concrete bridge was built. The ferry still runs. Zebu refused to cross the concrete bridge. The vibration, the height. For agricultural communities moving livestock to market, the ferry remains the functional option. The community did not replace the old system. They placed the new system beside it. In wet season, the river rises 10 to 20 feet. Nile crocodiles are confirmed in the water below. Crossing by ferry feels like moving from nowhere to nowhere. Both banks are the same flat green. The current moves beneath the hull without visible surface. The crocodiles don't register which crossing technology you chose. The communities along the Tsiribihina are seasonally isolated. In high water months, some villages are accessible only by boat. They plan around this, not against it. They know when the plateau rains will arrive downstream, counted in days, passed mouth to mouth along the river. 2 solutions, both valid. The decision each morning depends on what you're moving and where you're going. Adaptation does not always mean replacing what works. Sometimes it means running both options at the same time and deciding each morning. The island keeps revealing one pattern. Isolation creates conditions that look like problems and turn out to be solutions, or look like solutions and turn out to be conditions. The difference depends on which direction you're arriving from. The stranger half is still ahead. The rock changes color by the hour. Gold at dawn, deep rust by midday. Close to black at dusk, a darkness that looks deliberate. Surface temperature at peak, an estimated 140 degrees. Touch the sandstone for more than 3 seconds and it causes pain. "373 miles southwest of the capital, Isalo sits at the edge of what feels like the end of something. Flat red plain opening into canyon walls. Pools of permanent water at the canyon floors fed by underground springs that don't stop in dry season. 315 square miles of this, carved from rock that is between 165 and 200 million years old. The stone was once a sea floor, Jurassic marine sediment, sand and organic material that hardened, was lifted by plate tectonics, and was then cut by water over 65 million years into the canyon system visible now. The evidence is in the walls, ammonites and belemnites, marine fossils, embedded in the sandstone at canyon height. The sea is there pressed into the rock, confirmed. Temperature swings of 63 degrees in a single day, from 41 degrees before dawn to 104 at afternoon peak. The Varro's sifaka here has white fur that reflects 60% of solar radiation. When crossing open ground, it moves on two legs, leaning sideways, an adaptation that keeps the lighter ventral fur facing the sun and reduces heat absorption across the body. The Mahafali and Bara people use the sandstone faces of Isalo as burial sites, niches cut into the rock face or natural recesses sealed with carved stone, matched to the surrounding rock surface so carefully that there is no visible marker from a distance. No map exists. Only initiated family members know the exact location. The position is passed orally, father to eldest son before death. If that transfer does not happen in time, the location is permanently lost. The rock that was too hot to touch became the place to put what you want to protect forever. Tsingy was too dangerous for humans, and that kept everything else alive inside it. Isalo is too harsh for permanent settlement, and that kept the ancestors undisturbed inside it for generations. The landscape decides who enters and on what terms. A seafloor became a plateau, became a tomb. The rock holds all three. It does not sort them. Elsewhere on this island, there is an animal that human fear has pushed toward extinction. One that only looks dangerous. The response to that fear has done the opposite of what Isalo's rock has done. The ground here is a different red, not the rust orange of Madagascar's laterite roads. At 3 in the afternoon, the color of the spires is exactly the color of raw meat. 25 miles southwest of Diego Suarez, in the far north of the island, laterite has been carved by tropical rain into needle formations reaching 33 feet. These spires share the same shape as Tsingy de Bemaraha's limestone needles, 2,000 miles to the south, but were built by a different process from different rock. Tsingy de Bemaraha consists of Jurassic limestone, 150 to 165 million years old, carved by acidic rain over geological time into blade-sharp towers. Tsingy Rouge is laterite, iron oxide clay, with 10 million or more years of tropical weathering, carved by the same tropical rain into the same needle shapes. No shared origin. The spiny forest reinvented the cactus without being a cactus. The Tsingy Rouge reinvented the Tsingy without being limestone. The island keeps running the same experiment in different materials. The answer keeps coming out the same shape. No one recorded the name of whoever first documented this formation in the 1950s. There is no adult guide infrastructure here. Children from the nearby village, 8 to 14 years old, lead visitors to the best viewpoints. No marked trails, no signage. The fee is informal. The knowledge came from years of playing in the formations. The most knowledgeable keepers of the Sim of this geological site are 10 years old. The formation is dissolving. The same tropical rain that carved the needles continues to erode them. No engineering solution has been proposed that could slow it. The outer layer of laterite has roughly the hardness of compressed chalk. The rain that made it is also ending it. Still red, still standing. At the moment this is recorded. What created it is also what is finishing it. The island does not protect its own experiments from conclusion. Tsingy Rouge closes the convergent evolution thread. Biology did it with cyanide tolerance, plants did it with desert adaptation, and geology did it with needle formation. 3 domains. 3 independent answers to 3 different problems that all turned out to look the same. To the southwest, a lake that rises when there is no rain. The logic of water here does not always point in the direction you expect. "5 in the morning on a plantation in the northwest. Before the sun has cleared the horizon, before you can see much of anything, the air has already told you where you are. Sweet, slightly resinous, floral, with a faint metallic edge. Ylang ylang oil concentration peaks in the flowers just before sunrise. The harvesters work in the dark because of this. After 8 in the morning, the quality drops. They have known this for 150 years. Modern analysis confirmed what the practice already encoded. The island of Nosy Be sits 5 miles off the mainland coast, 120 square miles. Water temperature between 77 and 86 degrees every month of the year. Ilang ilang, Kananga odorata, is native to the Philippines and Indonesia. The French brought it to Nosy Be in the mid-19th century as a plantation crop. What they did not know, and what took decades to document, is that the volcanic red soil of Nosy Be, high in iron and phosphorus, low pH, combined with year-round warmth and humidity, would produce oil with a different aromatic profile and higher concentration of key compounds than the same plant grown in its native range. Nosy Be now produces roughly 45 tons of ylang ylang oil per year. A tree brought from Southeast Asia became more valuable here than it ever was at home. The island it was brought to did not know this would happen. Neither did the plant. The farmers harvesting this oil do not know which perfume it will enter. The wholesale price at source, roughly $2 to $4 per ounce. The perfumes it contributes to sell at multiples of that for each tiny fraction. The distance between to the hands picking flowers at 5 in the morning and the counter where the final product is sold is not only economic, it is a distance of presence. The person who grew this does not experience where it ends up. A plant brought from outside Madagascar, grown in Madagascar's isolated microclimate, became something the original range can no longer replicate. Here, an island produces something the world searches for, and the people growing it sell it for $2 to $4 an ounce without knowing what it becomes. The question from the beginning, why did the people from Borneo skip the continent 250 miles away and keep going? No record answers it, But the island does. It is out of easy reach. Always has been. And everything that needed somewhere beyond reach, the Bornean sailors, the lemur that rewrote what cyanide can do, the pirate fleet, the humpback whales crossing 4,970 miles from Antarctica. All of them found the same answer. Same logic, different centuries, different species. The bay at Ile Sainte-Marie, July. A humpback whale breaks the surface. The same water where pirates anchored 3 centuries ago. Neither group chose it by accident. The island was already the answer before anyone arrived to ask the question. The Bornean sailors knew, the whales know, the pirates knew. The rest of us are still catching up.